Okay, let's cut right through the agency spin today. We're looking at one of the most debated questions in healthcare right now. Does travel nursing actually still make financial sense in 2026? We're going to skip the hype and look straight at the raw data and your actual take-home pay in this explainer. So let's start with a major reality check. 32%. That is exactly how much travel nurse pay has plummeted since that wild pandemic peak in early 2022. It's a massive contraction in a really short amount of time, and honestly, it's left a lot of clinicians wondering, is the juice even worth the squeeze anymore? To put that percentage into actual dollars, we're talking about weekly pay averages falling from over $3,500 down to just about $2,165. And obviously, we can't ignore the broader economic context here, right? This giant pay cut happened right while the cost of literally everything else, from your groceries to your rent, went completely through the roof. Which brings us to the real question we need to answer today. It's not about whether travel nursing is as good as it was in 2022, because frankly, it's not. The question is whether the net take-home pay still beats staff nursing today, given what life actually costs right now. Are those trade-offs still justified? Well, the short answer is yes, but only for some nurses in very specific markets who are making highly strategic decisions. Let's break down exactly who that is. First, let's look at what actually happened to travel nurse pay and why. Just look at this crazy trajectory. We started at a baseline of around $1,800 a week back in 2019, then shot straight up to that totally artificial pandemic peak in 2022. Then 3 straight years of sharp corrections. But interestingly, look at 2026. We are finally starting to see early signs of stabilization, with pay actually projected to tick up by about 1%. It is absolutely vital to remember that the pandemic created a completely artificial market. Industry revenue exploded by over 400%. But once that federal emergency funding dried up and hospitals aggressively slashed the bill rates they were paying agencies, well, that artificial ceiling just collapsed. The gold rush, as they say, officially ended. Okay, let's move on to the pay comparison that actually matters. Now, on the surface, the headline numbers still look really compelling. Right now, a national median staff role nets about $1,330 a week, or roughly $64,000 a year. You compare that to a national average travel role netting around $1,950 a week, and it looks like travelers are pocketing up to $30,000 more a year. But hold on, because here is the crucial reality check. What happens when you actually subtract your real-world expenses from that? Once you deduct your legally required tax, home maintenance, which is, say, $800 a month, plus your actual housing costs in an expensive market, that $30,000 advantage suddenly shrinks big time. You're definitely still making a profit, but the margin, it's much, much tighter now. Which brings us to the housing problem and exactly where the math starts to break down. The gap between your stipend and reality across different regions is honestly staggering. In high-cost cities, think San Francisco or New York, a typical furnished apartment can easily run you upwards of $4,000, basically for a closet. And your stipend? It might only cover $2,800 of that, forcing you to pay the deficit right out of your own pocket. Contrast that with somewhere like Dallas or a lot of the Midwest, where stipends often cover your rent, with money actually left over. Think about what this means for your bottom line. Independent data shows that housing costs are now eating up more than 30% of a travel nurse's gross income. And when that number hits 40 to 50% in those expensive coastal markets, you aren't really travel nursing anymore. You're essentially funding your own vacation while working a full-time job. That out-of-pocket gap is literally the single biggest profit killer today. So which specialties are actually holding up through all this? High acuity specialties like ICU, OR, and labor and delivery have absolutely held their pay strength the best. Why is that? Well, hospitals simply cannot easily substitute less experienced nurses to fill those highly technical gaps, so those roles still command a premium. On the flip side, something like med-surg faces way tighter competition for contracts now, which results in noticeably lower pay. Let's transition to your playbook. There are 4 key variables that completely determine your financial success out there. Variable number 1, your specialty. Like we just touched on, the financial case is considerably stronger the more specialized your skill set is in 2026. If you've got high acuity skills, say cath lab or ICU, you still command a meaningful premium, and you're going to have really strong job availability across the board. Variable number 2 is your target market. You have to be surgically precise with your location strategy this year. Working in a zero income tax state, places like Texas, Florida, Nevada, or Washington, instead of a state with, say, a 5% income tax, that can automatically add $2,500 to $3,000 to your annual net take-home pay on a standard contract. It's a massive difference. Third is your tax home situation. Listen, the tax-free stipend advantage only works, both legally and financially, if you can actually maintain your permanent housing affordably. If you're stuck paying full market rent back home for an apartment that's literally just sitting empty, you are facing a massive financial hurdle just to break even on your assignment. And the fourth variable? Negotiation. In 2026, the financial advantage goes strictly to the informed. You absolutely 100% must compare packages across multiple agencies for the exact same hospital. Push on those stipend structures. Push on guaranteed hours. If you aren't negotiating right now, you are simply leaving money on the table. So what's the definitive answer here? Well, travel nursing is absolutely still worth an extra $15,000 to $30,000 a year if you are a flexible, specialized nurse with an affordable tax home who is targeting moderate cost areas. But it is a total losing game if you insist on only working in expensive coastal cities while paying high rent back home. So let's lock in your 2026 action plan. To protect your margins this year, you need to follow these 6 steps religiously. Always run the true net math, not just the gross pay. Make sure you scope out realistic housing costs on sites like Furnished Finder before you ever accept an offer. Oh, and don't forget to factor in the retirement match you might be giving up at a staff job. Target those zero tax states, pit multiple agencies against each other, and above all else, know exactly what your specific specialty is worth right now. I want to leave you with a strategic gem today because it really sums up the whole picture. Travel nursing is still worth it in 2026, but only for nurses who treat it like a business decision, not a lifestyle lottery. The days of passive, easy money, yeah, they're dead. The advantage belongs to the people who run the math. So as the market stabilizes, you have to ask yourself, are you going to be the clinician who blindly accepts the first offer, or are you going to be the CEO of your own nursing career?